dwarves in fantasy. But really what I mean to say is that I feel that, they wanted to make dwarves in fantasy, and that's why we didn't see them in Sigmar.
Yeah.
And I think maybe there's a layer where it's like, but if they were both working on it, they could learn from each other. Studios could collab. And I'm like, well, the less they collab, the better, because Age of Sigmar is meant to be so different from fantasy. But anyway.
And look, I think the dwarves, they may end up pulling me into fantasy, into Old World now.
Yeah, I'm still getting through my Tomb Kings. So when I get my Tomb Kings done, I get some games in.
I'm deeply considering it.
You should.
The scale of how much I enjoy beer is how cheap it is for me, right? But then, as I'm about to say, which means that 3 is the most tasteful beer. That's like Nirvana. That's like honeydew.
Welcome to From the Vaults, another episode here in the fine back offices of Vault Games. As always, I am Dylan. I am joined by the lovely Trent.
Hello, everyone. I'm also here.
And Connor behind the scenes there.
I am also behind the curtain.
There's no curtain here.
Don't look at the man behind the curtain.
They don't know that because I don't have a camera.
You're destroying the
the illusion.
There could be anything back here.
Yeah. There could be 15 Connors back there, and they only speak in the word Connor.
They're like Pokemon. It's like they only say
Gary
Connor.
clones.
Yeah.
Gary clones.
But they Connor clones. Connor.
Connor.
You brought up today's topic because obviously we saw some really cool weekend.
Adepticon just happened. Adepticon 2024. Adepticon, really big convention for everything gaming, board gaming, miniature gaming, mostly miniature gaming. But it's really big for Warhammer fans. They always show off some of the brand new stuff, really big reveals usually. This season wasn't as big as we expected. Adepticon's usually their biggest reveals.
Well, they did just have the LVO a month ago, 2 months ago?
That's correct, 2 months ago, yeah. So they may not have had a lot on the schedule to announce, but it is still a little bit quieter than I would expect. However, we've had some huge announcements regardless. Some, I think, were a little bit more pushed forward than others, seeing as there were some leaks that happened as well. So people kind of knew about some of this stuff a little bit before it happened, but either way, they showed it off. So today we're going to be talking about the new Adepticon reveals, all the new miniatures, the new... well, I don't want to spill too much, but let's talk about it now.
Let's get into it. All right,
let's get into it.
Obviously, the first big thing we need to talk about is the elephant in the room. New edition of Age of Sigmar's coming.
Yes, I think we'll sandwich it with this discussion. We'll come back to this.
We'll come back to AOS because we had plans to chat about 4th edition and editions overall in.
Well, stay tuned for the next episode.
Stay tuned for the next episode. I'm getting ahead.
We're 10 minutes in.
I know. Next episode,
stay tuned
we're going to talk
episode.
about editions as well.
Yeah. Exactly. But we want to talk about that they did announce that Age of Sigmar is getting its 4th edition.
4th edition.
That game is getting old, I'm telling you. Next year it's in Kindy. So,
that's terrifying.
Isn't it it's actually 8 years old? Or are you just doing editions as 1 year?
Editions is years, yeah. Obviously, yeah. It's definitely it's 8 years
Soul
old now.
Wars was 2 years ago?
All right. So they announced AOS. They've announced obviously a bunch of new miniatures, stuff like the end of the Dawnbringers books.
Yes.
There's some cool new miniatures in there too.
All right,
so
let's have a look here.
Why don't we go to that? Yes.
Yes. So it is the end of the Dawnbringers Crusade.
The final chapter. I think it's
Hounds of Chaos.
30 chapters.
Yeah.
I'm going to go through and read the whole Dawnbringers campaign, the whole story, because it's pretty interesting.
This book is Chaos's Halo 3. It's time for them to, quote unquote, finish the fight.
Yeah, finish the fight.
And
you said at the
honestly-
end of Halo 2 as well.
Yeah.
Where
And
are you
then
going?
Halo 4 was start another fight.
Start another fight, yeah. They always be starting fights.
But in Halo 4, they started another fight with a different group. So it was kind of, they woke
And
a guy up and then caused him to want to fight.
And a whole different game developer as well.
Well, let's talk about the new Slaves to Darkness. Obviously, let's go with the big guy. The brand new Abraxia, the character who I think just makes a fantastic, Slave to Darkness Lord on a mount.
Yes. Is it the Spear of the Everchosen is his name?
I believe so.
Her name.
Her name.
Her name.
The
She's
right hand of Archaon.
The right hand of Archaon.
Dark Oath and Bloodbound. No,
that's
in the book, the Dark Oath of Bloodbound surge across Akshi, and Archaon lets loose Abraxia, Spear of the Everchosen upon Gyron.
Ooh, very cool. Very cool.
So Chaos is now already making their way through Akshi because that's the focus of 4th.
Correct.
So now they're oh, by the way, back in Gyron on Gur, you don't want to finish that up? You want to finish that campaign up? Yeah, no worries. Here's a big lizard dragon thing to ride.
Yeah. So Slaves of Darkness aren't shy of big lizard things to ride.
No.
The current lord for the Slaves Darkness is on the back of like a gigantic lizard creature. I forget the name of it already.
Carcadrak?
The Carcadrak. That's correct.
It's kind of the same size as the Storm. Oh, is it the Storm Drakes were the smaller ones?
No, Storm Drake are the big ones.
Big ones.
You're thinking of Griffins, maybe?
No, that's the Dracolines, right?
Dracolines.
There's the Dracolines, there's the Storm Drakes, there's the Dracoths, which are like the gorilla-looking ones as well.
Yeah,
and
the
there's the Griff
Carcadrax-
Chargers.
The Carcadrax are like the same size as the.
It's actually. Sorry, I think it's about the size of a Dracoth, but it's like its head is further down to the ground.
Yeah.
And it's like very long, snake-like.
I thought they were a little bit more akin to the bloody the Fire Slayers, the bloody salamanders, those big things.
No, those are big. In comparison
Wait,
to
the
Carcadrax.
like the
Magmadroths.
Magmadroths. Oh, those are
No.
huge.
Yeah.
No, Magmadroths are huge.
This is a Magmadroth.
I think Magmadroth's bigger than this too.
Yeah.
Magmadroth's bigger than this, but this is a very cool model. I think this is what I was trying to get to here, where I'm talking about this model, and I love this model. It's full of like lots of detail. It's got everything you need from a Chaos model. It's full of spiky bits, lots of trim, a big demonic entity, a big Chaos Undivided brand on its leg. Looks great. It's gonna be great fun to paint. I think it's got a lot of character into it. Both the mount has a lot of like stuff going on, has its tactical rock, but also the actual mount, the Abraxia herself.
It has a blade as its tail.
It does. Abraxia herself is just a very like really nice sculpt. You can see her with the Varangard up there on the screen there. If you're a watcher, not a listener. If you are a listener, she is just very cool. Trust me. Big flaming sword. Spear. She's cool. I think that Chaos models have a problem with like blending into the background. I think where
Of their art, of their photography, absolutely.
yeah, but not just that. I mean, in their visual design in general, like Abraxia has a long way to go to depart herself from the Chaos Lord on Carcadrak, because she is a Chaos Lord-looking character on the back of a big lizard that has, Chaos stuff on it. It kind of reminds me almost of a Mauler Fiend. Like a demon Mauler Fiend, because it's like, again, it's got those like plates and it's very much the way it is. I think there's no question about it. The Dawnbringers catalog has had the best models brought to Age of Sigmar, probably the most as well, but the best models to Age of Sigmar that it's ever received. I think it's great. I love the model. I love the fact that Dawnbringers is wrapping up, not because it's bad or anything, but because you can finally get a more comprehensive story from start to finish. Yeah. It's, like I said, 30 chapters long. There's a bit of filler in there, but it's cool to see that they kind of opened it as well with a bit of chaos. It was very chaosy when it first started, so it's like kind of bookending the story with a bit of chaos as well at the end. So,
and it's created a lot more characters to kind of drive the narrative forward in terms of like books and story and gameplay as well, like that aren't necessarily, as we've touched on in other episodes, like God tier, the big bad of every Grand Alliance, X, Y, and Z big centerpiece model. It's like, okay, no, it's a Chaos Lord that's in the muck doing the grind and fighting out these day-to-day battles, or like, with Callus and Toll, like, demon hunters of Azir, like cleansing filth from the streets of the cities of Sigmar. There's like, even with Trug and what's the Loon King Scragrat or something, you've got those to kind of give the Gits a bit of a spotlight. And
I agree. I think that's really good. I think that Age Sigmar went through a phase where it was mostly about like kind of creating your own narrative and having your own heroes, and like, this is my Lord Relictor, or my this is my kind of loon
especially
boss.
in second ed, where they brought out the rules and
Build your own stuff.
Like, build your own hero. Here's the points cost of all their abilities.
Yeah, they had that in they did bring that again for third, but they took away the point stuff and it was very much for narrative. But either way, they really wanted you to make it your own. So it's good to see that where 40k tends to be there's lots of named characters, the story's really large, Marnie's Calgar, etc. We've got named characters for every army. That's what it's all about. Sigmar didn't really have that. There was maybe like 3 to 5 named characters in each book, if you're lucky, if you're very popular. And then if it wasn't for that, it was just a bunch of hero units. So it's good that every faction kind of got a bit of love in Dawnbringers, and they all got a bunch of characters with some real like names behind them, so that you can start your faction by going, I'm really interested in Abraxia. Well, I'll buy her. She'll come with some Varangard. I can pick up some more Varangard. I can then pick up maybe a sorcerer or two, and all of a sudden I've got like a really cool list with this important character that I may have read the book for, or I just like the sculpt for, that has a really cool centerpiece to it too, but isn't, like you mentioned, at the level of something like Kragnos or Teclis, where it's like, this is an undertaking, like crazy.
I do, and I also do like that it provides, I feel like it provides a lot of potential from the kit bashing side as well now, where you're creating really unique centerpiece models that don't necessarily have to be characters. Like, I really do hope that there is an alternate profile under this that is just a Chaos Lord on this mount, and then you can kind of make it your own.
I think
I would hope
centerpiece.
so. I think that unfortunately you might find yourself disappointed in that respect, just because I don't think many of these have alternate sculpts. I think so far the Dawnbringers have all been no. This is outside of the ones that just aren't named characters, which was very few. They've all just been like, and even those ones actually have been the single sculpt. So I think you might be disappointed to hear that. Like, I don't think she'll have an alternate sculpt. I think she'll just be Abraxia,
which is a very interesting change to where they were like even up to I think like halfway through third, where a lot of their character models had baseline profiles with them as well.
Yeah.
So like you could get Voltanos, High King of the Deep for the Deepkin.
Yeah.
Or you could just run him as an Achelian Prince.
Yeah, and they're different profiles.
or the
Same
war-
goes for Ossiarch Bone Reapers.
Yep.
Yeah, War Boss and War Crusher.
Yeah, that kind of stuff. Yeah. So, and I think a lot of those are second edition kits, but I also think that they also represent kind of, especially in those factions, almost their like most important character unit as far as like rules go. So it goes, oh well, we don't want you to have to bring this. What was the title? Voltanos. You don't need to bring Voltanos like. You shouldn't have to. You should be able to bring your own version of that that's still useful because this model is super important to your faction. So, you know, some people don't like named characters, whereas the Dawnbringers kind of go, well, this isn't super important to your faction. You usually unlock some other element of your faction or benefit something specific. It's very much like what was the Kurnoth guy's name? I'm already forgetting. Belthanos? Yeah, maybe it was. Belthanos?
The Autumn Hunt guy.
The Autumn Hunt guy.
Yeah.
The Autumn Glade. Belthanos... that sounds correct.
It sounds like a magic dragon.
But I've just said Volturnos or...
Belthanos, first of Kurnoth.
Belthanos. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so that's what I thought. I just got Volturnos and Belthanos. It's all a bunch of order names. But, you know, that character, again, no other alternate sculpts, but he was very much focused on a very particular side of the Sylvaneth. So, it's not a character that your army has to play. So it's cool to have a named character to make your army feel a little bit different. I assume Abraxia 2 will come with her own Army of Renown or her own special rules or something.
Yeah. Well,
it's nice of them to bring a really cool beast just as we're leaving Gur.
Yeah. Which is funny. But again, it's like the Kalkadrak isn't like a Gurish beast. I think like, you can have beasts that aren't necessarily Gurish. It's a very actually themed beast in my opinion. I know it's green, but like
no bone splitters.
It's a very actually no bone splitters. After coming off Gur,
actually it's a very 8 points.
Yeah, that's well, it's going to be very 8 points. It's an undivided chaos unit, I feel. But it's cool. It's cool. I think the model quality is super high, and this is another thing that I want to just touch on again is that all the Dawnbringer stuff has been absolutely incredible. Best sculpts coming to Age of Sigmar for the last.
Speaking of cool model quality, though, that terrain piece that's up on the screen, the Nexa Chaotica, that's pretty rad.
It's so rad. Games Workshop has always done a really good job of incorporating fire into their miniatures. I feel like fire must be one of the hardest things for a concept designer to make into a miniature.
It seems like they've really gone hard on like fire as a theme recently. Like I think back to the Pyre and Flood, like we've got the Warcry box that has the flaming, Nighthorn Ghost, but then also the Mandrake kill team that's supposed to be coming out, also with a lot of like flame on the miniatures. So
exactly,
they hired like one new model designer,
and he just wants everything to be fire.
They're like, hey Jessica, we know you're really good at fire. Do you mind just fire the shit?
Listen,
she goes, yes, I will.
I'm a Sagittarius, so I'm all about fire.
I think that it could also be the fact that we are going to Akshi. Yeah. So it could also be that, and that's the realm of fire and soot. So I wouldn't be surprised if that's somewhat related. However, more importantly, it's just done so elegantly well.
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of fire on older miniatures back in the day, not just to do with Games Workshop either. Like I've been looking at a lot of the salamanders in Mantic miniatures, they're Kings of War game, and while they do look really good, they're really cool minis, they don't do fire like Games Workshop does fire. Whoever bless up for Jessica apparently, because whatever she's doing it right. The fire looks great, and that's what sells this piece for sure.
Fire rises, brother.
Fire rises, brother.
All right, well that's pretty much it for like Dawnbringers and I guess AOS.
Well,
for now. Next one is Warhammer Old Worlds. The dwarves are coming back. That's right. The range update that removed all of the plastic dwarven kits has now been fixed and is returning again with all new boxes.
Crazy how they pulled all of the old dwarf sculpts from Age of Sigmar and they all just like showed back up in a different game. It's kind of crazy, actually. How do they get away with this?
How do they keep getting away with this?
How are they getting away with this?
So yeah, new dwarves. Well, new.
Repackaged dwarves.
Dwarven Mountain holds as a battalion as well with, a decent amount of models. A gyro bomb and a gyrocopter too.
That's the thing about the old world boxes, that the big battalions do have lots of models in them. This is true about the Tomb Kings, Britannia, the new Orcs coming out. Like, there are lots of models in the box, which is great, especially in a game where you want to have like really big armies. It's good to have lots of boxes in your battle boxes. Lots of models. Lots of boxes.
One thing this doesn't have though is it doesn't seem to have a command unit.
The Dwarf Lord.
It has 32 warriors, 32 quarrelers that can also be built as thunderers, and 2 gyrocopters that can be built as gyro bombers. Yeah, that's it. They don't have like a command model like the Dwarven Lord
in the new box.
Yeah,
Interesting.
Like the other battalions do. But speaking of new Dwarven Lord, the new mini with the shield the Lord being carried on the shield, that looks radish.
It's a very dwarven miniature, isn't it?
Yeah.
And again, I know it's the old world, but it does harken back to those old style of sculpts where you had dwarven characters being like saddled on. Just very cool. I love this guy so much. I'm not a big dwarf guy personally. Like aesthetically, I can kind of take it or leave it with dwarves, but I really like these models so much. It almost turned me around, honestly.
I dig all the beards. There's so much beard.
The beard is really cool.
And then a couple of resin sculpts are back.
I think if you look at the resin sculpts as well, and you look at the new model that is up on the screen right now, actually with the cape and like the kind of the Drake skin on his cape, you can see that they're really making better use of their base as well, and making better use of the kind of area they've got. Dwarves to me, I know this is going to sound silly because they are just like small, stout people, but they just don't have a lot of presence on their base. But I like with the new models showing off a lot of presence on the base. Makes it a very exciting painting option as well. Like a really cool...
hey, look, it's returning plastic.
Returning plastic miniatures.
Crazy how it's returning. Oh, there's a dwarf. They're also bringing back the Dwarf Lord.
Yeah.
The Rune Lord.
And Ungram Iron Fist, the Slayer King. Which makes me very excited.
That's super cool. Yeah, that's one of the 2 returning now to resin, right?
Yeah.
Yep, they're cool. Because they were only metal beforehand, which is really cool. They've come to resin.
One thing to note too.
Sorry, go ahead.
So just quickly, one thing to note too, by the way, the Dwarven Rune Lord that's returning plastic, the blister plaque that it came in, even though it said Age of Sigmar, also had a square base in it.
It did, yeah. In fact, we have some even today in the store that say Age of Sigmar but have square bases in them, like the Sorceress as well. I think also, correct me if I'm wrong, but I do think these are also the new Forge World resin, or at least the currently used Forge World resin. These are not coming back in fail cast, which I think people are very worried about because they go, these are metal sculpts. They're coming off metal, like injection molds, metal molds. So we worry what the quality is. But no, this is the newer Forge World resin. It's very exciting. Apparently they made whole new molds for these. I can't confirm, but apparently they made whole new molds for these. So they should be very, very high quality miniatures as you see them on the screen, which is super cool. Super cool.
And the Grudge Thrower, Bolt Thrower, Flame Cannon, Anvil of Doom, and Master Engineers are all returning in metal.
In metal. You know what that's going to mean for Australian consumers?
That means buy them online.
Buy them online. See if your friends have any lying around, please. God, they're going to be like definitely 3-digit price tags on all of those things. If the Ushabti or anything to learn from, $145 Australian for 3 metal Ushabti. Are you joking, Games Workshop? $45, $45+ a miniature, $48 something, or almost $50 a miniature.
They do have classic Slayers coming back, but I feel like at this point you could really just rebase
Fire Slayers.
You probably will. I think depending on the audience, right? Because some people just see like these models and go, I really want my army to look like it came out of the Stone Age. I think some people really want that, so maybe. But yeah, you are absolutely correct. The Fire Slayers would fit really well. However, it is possible as well that if you're using all those old Thunderers and all those old Hammerers, you might not want your Fire Slayers to look so fundamentally different, because they do look quite different as well. So I want to add that as well.
You kind of want that uniformity in this kind of game.
Yeah, exactly. And you want, if your dwarves are all going to look old and stumpy, your characters might as well look old and stumpy as well.
Yeah.
Look, I think this is gonna. I'm sure this will upset like the whole 5% of Age of Sigmar players that it really like matters to. But I think the shift of Cities of Sigmar to having its own distinct identity and basically pulling the Duergar out of Age of Sigmar, because I mean realistically that's what happened when they took those kits away to rebox them. There's no reason to have Greywater Fastness anymore, because it's much harder to get if at Age of Sigmar, and it doesn't really link in with the rest of Cities of Sigmar stuff anyway. So I'm kind of okay with Cities of Sigmar finally having its own identity. Am I disappointed that there's not more Dwarven factions in Age of Sigmar? Absolutely. I would love to see Fire Slayers expanded to a point where they're not just red-headed Slayer models the whole way through, or that there was a dedicated dwarven cast, like a dwarven faction that isn't just them. Hell, give me Chaos Dwarves in Akshi.
See, I would have loved. Yes, I would also love Chaos Dwarfs. Like AOS Chaos Dwarfs, I think would go a madness with the sculpts and like the kind of models you could get. But I kind of wished they almost took like an Orc War Clans approach to it, where it's like it's 3 separate armies or like 2 separate armies in the same book, but you could bring them as like a grand host of Grimnir or Grungir or whatever, and
which is what Cities of Sigmar had been since.
Well, that's what it was
first
supposed to be,
edition.
but it was just.
It really just felt like the drop-off point for people who... Like, it just felt like a drop-off point for old Warhammer Fantasy
Yeah,
models.
they were just holding on to those models that they'd probably had for years up until that point. And
I do think that's valid. However, I also think that you lose a lot with the subtle kind of whitewashing of Cities of Sigmar being like, well, it wasn't really ever about all these other races. It wasn't really ever about the Dark Elves. It wasn't really ever about the Wood Elves and the Dwarves. It's really always about the humans. And it's like, well, that's not true.
Don't get me wrong. I don't want it to be just humans in the Cities of Sigmar. I think you can do the current identity with across multiple races. It just doesn't need to be all humans. But the identity that they have right now of Cities of Sigmar turning into this grim European...
it's just Empire Light, really.
Yeah, Empire Light.
And I like that. However, I think that...
I just think that Empire can use dwarves and dark elves in it as well.
I agree. And I think that there's room for new sculpts for those factions to get involved. And I feel like what's happened instead, right? Just to talk about what you were saying, you're like, I'm glad this thing happened. I feel like personally, what's happened instead is that we've just had kind of like almost like, for lack of a better word, like almost like a genocide of these other races that have existed in Cities of Sigmar and said, no, like, yeah, there's like an ogre that these guys riding on, like that's cool. But other than that, it's like, and there's like familiars with some of the other characters. But other than that, it's like, and I guess horses, these other races have all like kind of disappeared. And I feel like, in some of the rules, like look at the Warcry rules that got updated for Cities of Sigmar and such, you have those other factions as well that got new rules. Like, the Durgar aren't just gone, because in Warcry they do have those rules. The Dispossessed, they all have rules as well. However, I really feel like we missed the mark for Cities of Sigmar that the first wave was just the human sculptors of it.
Yeah, I agree
we
with
missed
that.
a mark where it could have easily just one unit of like some kind of hammerer or one unit of just thunderers.
Yeah, look,
anything
if you had a dispossessed army of hammerers, a dispossessed squad of hammerers, and a Delk Elf squad of bolt throwers.
Simple as that.
Like, as simple as that have that same aesthetic, but molded to those different races, proportions, and I guess identity, so that you still have that tie-in of the shoddy, like grim, like armor that is what Cities of Sigmar are going, and then you're having a little bit of that flair through banners and
100%.
hairstyles and movement styles, all that kind of stuff. I think that Cities of Sigmar, I agree that was lost. That all we got was guy riding ogre, guy riding horse, and a bunch of dudes.
Yeah, and even like in the new Age of Sigmar trailer, which they showed off, which is just a gorgeous trailer. I really recommend watching it. It's my favorite trailer they brought out like freaking ever. The Skaven are just so cool. They showed off that city as well, and it was just more humans as well, even in that city. Just no other examples of any other races. And it kind of makes the setting feel less fantastical, which is kind of ironic because Age of Sigmar is the highly fantastical version of like these games.
It's hyper.
It's hyper fantastical.
Fantasy.
And yet we can't have dwarves in the same city as humans. And like, I also think that, there's, it's a complicated like pie. I think maybe there's an argument to be made against like the whole, racism in games where it's like, there's always this kind of weird racist angle where like how dwarves hate elves and how like elves kind of mistreat humans and like X, Y, and Z. And by segregating them, you avoid those conflicts internally within your setting. But I think by definition, outside of your setting, you're creating those same conflicts, right?
Yeah.
It's a bit ironic. It's a bit like you've kind of created a problem by solving a problem, or vice versa, however you want to look at it. I think for me, So while I agree the new Cities range is brilliant, it looks really lovely, and the model's high quality, it wouldn't have been difficult to have a single unit of dwarves that fill a niche that the humans don't, and then a single unit of dark elves that fill a niche that the humans don't, and then a single unit of wood elves. Like, I really love the elk riding cavalry. I can't remember what they're called.
Glade
Wild
Riders.
Glade Riders,
Glade Riders, think what they're called now. They might have been called Wild Riders before. Maybe I'm wrong. But yeah, those like Glade Riders.
They would have been a great
Cavalry unit for the City of Sigmar, but they just I guess, couldn't exist in the setting. For some reason, they couldn't fit. And I think what the real answer is because it costs them more to do that, and it separates their profits by going, no, we can only make so many units. We want to make a bunch of these human units, so we'll just pull them from the ranges, put them into Warhammer Fantasy, and say, those players will buy this range of units.
Even with the new human ranges, you could have easily been like, oh, this is the Dwarven artillery unit, and it's literally just like,
That's what I'm saying.
organ guns or bolt throwers or anything like that, and then you just, you have like some elven cavalry or
And
something.
Look, you know what? Realistically, you could have had heavy weapons team, like you could have had ordnance teams that were mixed races.
Well, that's what I was going to say. In a perfect world,
it takes up the same amount of space, if not less space.
In a perfect world, and I understand why people might get confused with this, but in a perfect world for me, it's like, you have your like Thunderers unit, but it's a mix of people.
Yeah.
It's like humans and dwarves in a Thunderers unit. You've got the Scouts unit, which has a bunch of people with like their cloaks over, like a bunch of humans, and they're like really cloaky guys, but they're with dark elves, which are the ones that are kind of teaching them. Like they're learning from each other. It feels like that kind of guerrilla tactics of like, we all have to fight a greater evil. We all have to work together.
Like a cultural cooperation.
Cooperation.
For the survival of the cities of Sigmar.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
Which feels, I think, more like keyed into the mortal elements of Age of Sigmar, because your immortal areas are like your hyper extremist sides of the witch elves being dark elves that just took it way too seriously.
And like the Stormcast Eternals are a great example
Eternals,
of that. Super
Fire Slayers being like, actually that's one thing too. A lot of the Stormcast are basically all human. Like,
well, not anymore, but yeah.
And they're like, so the Stormcast
visually. Sorry, I see what you're saying.
visually.
Visually they're human. So you have those extremist separated races of each of those elements being taken to the extreme of human, like immortals. You've got sneaky elves that are fragile but fast.
Yeah.
You've got the stoic elves and the Lumineth. You've got the Fire Slayers, which are the massive grudge bearers. We just want to hit things and drink beer. And then you have this melting pot capability with Cities of Sigmar that you just chose not to do.
But the important part is, right, all those armies mentioned earlier, it's like this really, really matters for a game health perspective. Like from a game balancing, game health perspective, and a game logic perspective, it makes a lot of sense to have armies that are like this. And also, if you look at the Stormcast, right, their visual identity is that they have a lack of personality. That's their visual identity, is that they're meant to be like empty vessels that are fully following Sigmar's whim. They lost all of their own identity. So they're meant to look like a gigantic wall of guys in armor. So by making them all human, you create that. If you had dwarves that were strapped up in the Stormcast armor, that would give them identity. It made them feel unique. It made them give them character, which they really don't want to do. It's no wonder it took them so long to bring back Ionis Cryptborn in the Dawnbringers Crusade, because they don't really like Stormcast named characters, right? Because they create a problem for the Stormcasters' like core identity, which is that they don't personally, model by model, have identities because they get burned away by war. So I think that like that works for me. I look at Stormcast and I go, it really works for me that they're all human. But then when I look at the Sigmar, like you mentioned, this boiling pot, it's like, I feel like this isn't working for me. And I feel like at the end of the day, it was a excuse for them to go, we don't want any of this in our game. Not to say, we're not talking about like the racism or the segregation. What I mean to say is that we don't want this mix and matching of identities in this game. We want to make sure that every single faction has a very defined identity. And I think personally, now this, like, jump in the comments if you disagree with me here, but I think it's a reflection of 40K's design aesthetic, where it's like the Cities of Sigmar are just the Astra Militarum. Yeah. I think that's what they've basically gone and said. They've basically gone and said, well, we just don't have like a human on the like feet on the ground faction.
And here's a couple of abhumans to make it a little bit different.
Make it a little bit different, right? In the same way that you have Ogryns, the same way that you have other units like that. Here is the abhumans, but really, and that's a good example because you look at the Ogre that came out with the Cities of Sigmar, and it isn't like an Ogre objectively in the way that we know ogres. It's not like this kind of Mongolian design. It's not like this classic ogre design, or I should say Ogre Kingdom's design.
It has a little bit more human-esque features.
It's a little bit like broader in the shoulders with a longer neck. It's a very human design ogre. It actually reminds me a lot more of an Ogryn than it does an ogre, which again to me screams that this is them learning from each other, and the games obviously they're from each other. We talk about that at length. I'm learning from 40K and its success and going, well, why doesn't Sigmar have success? Okay, let's at least just go get these humans evolved, get their feet on the ground. And you know what? To be fair, it has been successful for them because it's a very successful army.
Yeah.
Its rules are quite good, sure, but at the end of the day, it is a very successful faction. So While we could all want more for it, I also think that maybe in the future we do get that dwarf faction that you're talking about. And then maybe in the future the Umbraneth finally come out. Please, we only talked about at the very beginning of third, but the Umbraneth finally come out and we get that kind of dark elf faction that isn't so concisely like the knife murder women. Yeah, Marathi and a knife murder women. You know, it kind of goes more into that kind of guerrilla tactic, sabotage, stealthy darkness.
Black Ark, Reavers and stuff like that. Yeah.
The kind of pirate,
Corsair,
Corsair design. So,
which would be really cool.
So yeah, well, that was our side tangent on AOS there for Sigmar.
No more AOS
which
now.
wasn't really about the dwarves in fantasy, but really what I mean to say is that I feel that, you know, they wanted to make dwarves in fantasy and that's why we didn't see them in Sigmar.
Yeah.
And I think maybe there's a layer where it's like, but if they were both working on it, they could learn from each other. Studios could collab. And I'm like, well, the less they collab, the better, because Age of Sigmar is meant to be so different from fantasy. But anyway.
And look, I think the dwarves, they may end up pulling me into fantasy, to Old World now.
Yeah, I'm still getting through my Tomb Kings. So when I get my Tomb Kings done, man, get some games in.
I'm deeply considering it.
You should. It's fun. I'm liking fantasy a lot.
All right. Next one, new Warhammer Underworlds. This is already going up for pre-order. By the time you're watching this, it's probably already up for pre-order now.
Yep.
Like, it did not take long for this to appear. I like that their background for the cover image says Death Gorge. This is the new box set, Wintermoor.
The next season of
Warhammer Underworlds. I like how it's gone off the deep end.
Yeah, Underworlds is a great game for this.
Yeah. Look at this Cult of Sigmar. There's a dwarf riding a man's back.
I just want to touch on the lore about these guys. So that was my favorite part of the whole presentation. They're like a cult of Sigmar, and all of them have joined this group because they've been struck by lightning, and they're convinced that they're like Sigmar's chosen, and their whole thing on the tabletop is that they have like charge, so energy essentially, and they dispel energy to, you know, empower these attacks, but then you have to recharge them. So they have to shock each other with lightning in order to like recharge them. It's just so funny.
If you have a look, they all have lightning rods.
That's it. You can also see this in their visual design, where they've like kind of bolted to their heads almost these kind of helmets with huge lightning rods that come up, so they can be constantly struck by Sigmar. And I think that's it's a very cool thing. This comes back to that Cities of Sigmar design, where it's like you can imagine this happening. Can you imagine? This would really be it. It kind of, can I say, it's gonna be a very weird tangent, but there's an episode of Adventure Time where the citizens of the Candy Kingdom come together and they have this kind of secret club. Now, the Candy Kingdom is full of like a little bit off in the head like characters. They're all meant to be a little bit like not very smart characters, but they make this little like club where they want to overthrow Princess Bubblegum and they want to get this new guy instated into the like government by actually doing a vote. And it's a very interesting little like club. I can imagine in a city of Sigmar, like in the corner of like a despot street down like an alleyway, you go down a door and there's these guys all sitting around like a circle, all talking about their day and like the work site and such, but like all talking about what their next plans are, their grandiose plans for Sigmar, what they're going to do for him. And like
Sigmar's like, worship me. No, not like that.
But also Sigmar don't even like that. Sigmar's like sitting at his desk doing his job, and like some Stormcasters like, so we've had some ramblings in one of the cities. We have this group of followers. He's like, I put it on my desk. I'll work on it later. And it's like, and like it just collects dust on his desk under all this paperwork.
Brother, have you heard of our Lord and Savior Sigmar? And then just
right. So it's so cool. The opposite, I think, of what we were talking about earlier, where of the Stormcast, ironically, so much character, so much fun. Yeah. And probably a joy to paint.
This feels like almost like kind of like the Arcoflagellants, you know, of the Sisters of Battle. It's like the Sigmar version, which I'm so on board for this.
Except they did it to themselves.
Yeah,
correct.
They had to do it to them.
I love all Underworlds, but I also would love to play these guys in Warcry, and I hope they get their.
I really hope they get some Blade
rules.
These guys in Warcry would be so much fun.
Yeah, they're probably. I'm not gonna lie, the way Connell swear their rules in Underworlds. So Underworlds is a game that we have in our store. I have my stuff always in my locker, right? I literally have like 4 factions and all my cards and all my boards, everything in there. And I'm always like, I'm going to play some Underworld soon. And every like 2 or 3 weeks, some customer comes to the store and they're like, I really want to try playing Underworlds, or I'm a really big Underworlds player, they say. And they say, but I just don't have any like groups to play with. And I'm like, hey, jump on our community Discord. We have a Warcry Underworld section. Jump into there. Introduce yourself, man. We'll get some Underworlds going. I love Underworlds. Like, I love playing the Briar Queen, Thorns of the Briar Queen, my favorite factions.
They're getting Rivals deck as well.
I saw that actually. Yeah, so they're
and
getting Rivals
Moloch's
deck.
Mad Mob is getting re-released with a Rivals deck as well. So I'm like,
saw.
oh god,
It's-
I want that.
It's very exciting. It's very exciting. So I go, let's get some games in. But then I never see them. And then it's like the next person comes in. And they always say the same thing. Like, I just never get any games in because nobody plays Underworlds. I'm like, there are so many of you.
Yeah.
There are so many of you that don't play Underworlds. I'm like, please come and play Underworlds.
And that's the thing.
So-
We've had multiple people ask the store as well. This happened like 2 years ago now, but we had a whole bunch of people asking us about it. And we tried running Underworlds as like a legitimate Saturday meetup or a Sunday meetup or whatever kind of meetup it was. And the only person that ever showed up was the one person who like we finally like said, you know what? Yeah, let's do this. We told every person that came in after that, hey, this is the day. This exact date.
Yep.
We are starting Warhammer Underworlds in our store.
And
Bring it.
It was even like a ticketed event. It was literally just like, come along, grab a beer, play some games with friends.
Yeah.
And then like we also mentioned, we're like, we'll run some events. We have some OP kits. We have to do real events for you guys. We'd love to do that. And I came along. I played a bunch of those events as well. Me and him actually used to play. There was a guy, Riley, who came in for a while, Riley. And Riley and I used to play a bunch together. But over time, it just hasn't really kicked off. And I think that the Rivals decks hopefully will turn this all around for us. But my point being in this story is that I'll probably end up just picking up Underworlds anyway and just playing more of it because this is such a cool box. And what gets me for this box, now I love these guys, okay? I love the Lightning Strike guys, but it's the Flesh Eater Courts that get to me. Oh my god, these sculpts, first of all, and the gameplay implications of the Giant Bat in your list. Just amazing. I cannot wait to play these. I'm getting this box anyway because I want these guys for my Warcry warband because I want specifically 3 girls, a character, and a bat. Specifically.
I like you said the gameplay implications of that. It's like, nice terrain hex, loser.
Exactly. Sorry, bro. I'm not worried about it at all.
I'm not worried about it.
I'm not worried about it. It's very cool. God, they look so cool. I love these. I love the ghouls. They have like a bit of a more simplicity to their sculpts, which means you could play.
They're very classic Flesh Eater.
They're very classic Flesh Eater Courts. They look really good. This is what I'm really excited for. That bat model is incredible. Yeah. Just the composition of him is really cool, and I like models that have like this kind of that reach over their base a lot, but also don't impact gameplay negatively.
Tactical
and I feel
rock as well.
Tactical rock,
and a tactical hair loincloth.
Yeah, exactly. And importantly, again, those gigantic wings just not being in a space that gets in the way of gameplay, especially in the game like Underworlds where you have that hex to stand on. Really cool. Really cool to be able to have these nice, exciting models, but not make it negative gameplay. Akin to like Nighthaunt Bladegeist Revenants is something they bring up often, where they're just impossible to play with. This is the opposite. It's very cool. I'm very excited. I want to play them.
All right, next. New Warcry.
Now,
another Warcry.
We touched on Warcry.
Here's the thing, right? Here's the thing. We still haven't seen the Pyre and Flood box set yet.
Yeah, Connor mentioned this one recently, but we still haven't seen that yet.
Yeah.
And now they're like, hey, here's another cool one. So this is Briar and Bone.
Yeah. I think from what they've revealed and spoken about, I think I'm more excited for this one than Pyre and Flood.
Definitely.
Just because of the design implications for like the abilities of these warbands.
Yeah. Well, first of all, so this is the new box set. It has both Ossiarch Bone Reapers and Sylvaneth in it. First, let's check out the Bone Reapers. You want to scroll down there, please, Connor? We've got, the standard Mortarch boys.
Well, go back over one first. Yeah, let's start here. Let's start here.
There we've got, if you scroll down a bit, Connor, you see it? Yeah, that's it. Yeah, there you go. We got a centaur. We got a bone centaur. A bone tour, if you will.
Isn't that so freaking cool? That's the thing that I talked about. I actually talked about so much about Ossiarch. And I always felt that having guys that just phalanx guys with shields and then having knights on horseback was such a weird design choice for Ossiarch Bone Reapers because they're centurions made of bone.
Yeah. They're shaped together.
Just shape them to the horse.
Yeah.
And this is it. This is what they've done. It's perfect. This model is so freaking cool.
In the lore though, these guys are the reject builds.
Yeah.
So they're we'll use you guys as the scouts.
Yeah. Yeah. It's this is the stuff that kind of didn't work out.
Yeah.
They've just kind of stapled different stuff together.
It's no, guys with shields works way better than
it's really just God making the platypus kind of thing.
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah. They're semi-aquatic bone automatons of action.
Yeah.
And then we've got some bone dogs.
These kind of reminds me of kind of panthers though. They kind of got a cat vibe to me.
Yeah.
But they're very cool. I love the bone panthers. This is my favorite part of them. I'm getting this box for sure because I really like these models specifically. But yeah, so it's almost like a beast menagerie, isn't it? You've got those 3 panthers there.
They've got the ghosts inside of them too, the what are
the Mortarch's mounts.
The Mortarch mounts and is it the Morghast?
Yeah, the Morghast have those. And the Cavaloth Death Riders, those. The horses have them too. Mm. It's what powers them, if I recall correctly. The souls that are within them is what powers them.
It's these were going to be horses. but they came out a lot smaller.
Yeah. So we got these kind of like these almost like
Vultures?
vulture, wyvern, harpy style of creatures. Again, really cool. Can you tell Trent likes winged creatures with tactical rocks? Very cool. I think he's awesome. They've got the real Morghast wings too going on. They look like kind of runt Morghast.
Yeah. And then 2 Mortarks with thick thighs.
I was gonna say, yeah, so these guys are really funny looking. They got thick legs. Maybe they are horse legs upon looking at it again.
They look a little like bestial on the legs.
Yeah, but I think they're the horses. I think they're the Cavalossus Rider legs. Maybe I'm crazy, but I think that's why they're so
They
thick.
are looking a bit horsey at the bottom. Like they've got claws, but like
I think the Death Riders as well also have like little claws as well, if I recall correctly. But yeah, they look like, because they got that kind of like solid bone kind of aesthetic.
The Death Riders that they're like, look, we really tried, but we forgot to make your horses. It was just a matter of like numbers.
Crazy.
Like we made 10 more men than we could horses in the hopes that we'd probably go lose them, but unfortunately you guys still existed.
Yeah, these are the coolest we've seen in a long time. I think, by the way, we haven't mentioned this, but Ossiarch Bone Reapers and coming up soon, Sylvaneth to talk about soon. This is the first time they've had bespoke warbands in Warcry. For a long time, Warcry was, speaking of the 8 points earlier, it was all about chaos this, chaos that. We're going to make warbands for chaos. It's all about cultists. Over the course of this new edition, or more like the 1.5, you could say, the current Warcry edition, it's just been so many cool other factions getting their own warbands, and we're finally getting to the point of like, Lizardmen got their own, obviously Nighthawk got their first one and the last one that still hasn't released yet. Lumineth never had one, they got one. Now you've got Ossiarch, we've got Sylvaneth. There's just so many cool, like Fire Slayers never had one. Every faction is getting one.
This is Warcry 3.
2. It's technically Warcry 1.5 because they didn't change many rules of Warcry 1.
Because I thought they did a revised edition of Warcry 1, which had updated rules when they started introducing the extra stuff that isn't just chaos.
So they did they didn't really start doing extra stuff for Warcry until this current 1.5.
So no,
the compendium cards
stuff.
That was the compendium stuff. That was 1.5, and then the book that took us to Gur. This is technically 2. So we're kind of in this weird like 2.5 now. I'd say we've gone sort of further down the line.
Rule book for current edition is the same as the last edition. Like the actual rules themselves have changed, like fundamentally not at all.
Not much.
We are really in 1.5 now.
Yeah.
Like even with the rules revision that was between 1 and now was errata. Sorry, it was FAQ, less errata than was FAQ. And then they released the compendium because those units just didn't really have anything. Because when they released, so if you remember, they released like non-bespoke Warcry warbands because they released things like Nighthaunt and such.
Yeah.
But they were just legitimately chain rasp sprues and legitimately like Grimgar sprues.
I
and
had
then
one of those boxes.
And they gave
Brutes, sorry.
And
it was Brutes and Ard Boys.
Brutes and Ard Boys. But they gave you a card in there that had the compendium rules. And that was their revisionist kind of Warcry 1. But what we're in right now, which is technically Warcry 2, is realistically just Warcry 1.5 because the only major changes we've really seen between 1 and 2 is the narrative play, which was completely ground up reworked. Yeah. So it's a bit of but the core rules remain almost identical, which is quite good.
Yeah.
Now onto the Sylvaneth. We've got Wickerman, the Tree Revenant.
This is like baby Drycha Hammerdreth kind of.
Yeah.
Reminds me a lot of that.
It's if there's anyone out there that's familiar with the role-playing game Heart, it's like the deep apiarist on the tabletop.
It's so cool.
It's so just Beamancer, dude.
It's a Beamancer, and that's so freaking cool. I think
it'd be a pain to paint, I imagine. It'd take a long time to individually paint all those bees.
Yeah, well, that's actually, what's funny? So I there's almost like a flow state because I painted the Emerald Spite Swarm, which is like an endless spell, which is just a swarm of like 100 little like bugs. And when I got into it, I was like, oh, this could be like a nightmare. Threw some contrast over it, gave it a good wash, and then just like going, wing, 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 and getting into a flow state of it. I was done in like maybe like 2 hours. I was really surprised by how easy it actually came out to be, but there are a lot of bugs there. There are a lot of bugs.
Sorry, I'm just having to see if I can get a closer look at that model.
I guess while we're still here,
it's good. It's great model.
I love the legs as well, like the kind of like spindly kind of like what's the term you would use? Like stilts.
Yeah,
it's very cool.
Yeah,
it gives it a lot of height.
You know how we were talking about like identity when it comes to like Cities of Sigmar and all that.
Yeah.
and the Sylvaneth being the extremes of the Wood Elf identity. That's one of the great things I really liked about the move to Age of Sigmar is that they turned the Wood Elves into the Sylvaneth that were. What if the only Wood Elves that survived were just really angry that they did?
Yeah. What if it was more wood than elf?
Yeah.
Which is what I really like about Sylvaneth. And I think, they just work really well as that kind of extremist kind of like the part. Like even the spirited elves themselves are mostly like treants themselves, which is just cool. And this guy with the sword and the bow, so cool.
Yeah.
We've had these guys are almost like tree revenants. Slash, there's even a spite revenant there. But the fact they've got this kind of like shoulder with the like each of them have this like kind of tree growing out their shoulder that gives them a lot of like definition and kind of like again that height that kind of gives them like this kind of huge silhouette. Just looks absolutely brilliant. It really makes them feel like they are a walking tree, even though they themselves are just the height of like a normal soldier.
They seem, I mean, it's the same thing that comes up with a lot of these Warcry warbands. I think these are really great sculpts to use as like counts as leader models in units in
absolutely.
regular AOS.
Absolutely, I think it's brilliant. Just awesome. Everything about this is just really cool. The guy with the giant like multiple whips as his hand, the Spite Revenant.
Cool
Even
dryads as well, like just having alternate dryads.
Yeah, for the first time ever, we've got new dryad sculpts. I also really like the fact that the Spite Revenant's got like this whip for a hand. There's like this like cat of nine tails, but it's the exact same whip that the leader has as her hair.
Yeah,
so it's not like.
It's all tied in.
It's not like it's all tied in. It's not like a unique thing. It's just like he's growing them out of his hand as a weapon. She's growing them out of her head as like an expressive thing. Like it just makes them all feel like they're connected.
The law reason for that is because they're like afflicted with like a corrupting disease that causes these like insane growths.
Yeah, there's some fungi on one of them as well.
And so the whole like the Beamancer lady deal is I take all of that and I cut that away from you and I deal damage to you, but I empower your abilities and take away that corruption.
Isn't that cool?
And they've said that that's going to be kind of how the abilities play out. It's like there's some damage, but also you empower abilities.
Yeah.
And just going back to the Ossiarch Bone Reapers,
this is really interesting.
Their rules is they're going to have like a set of abilities, but you can empower those abilities by spending wild dice.
Yeah, which is really useful.
So making it, cool. Say you've played a narrative game or whatever and you've banked like a few wild dice. I know we had a 2v2 game recently where we had like 8-9 banked wild dice.
You're so disgusting.
Imagine if we could have pumped that into like abilities. It would have been like, here's an extra attack plus X amount of strength for each wild dice you spend or whatever.
Yeah.
That would have been there's some cool like interesting design space in there that's like it's introducing this resource and giving it like a further expression on the table.
Yeah, and what's important to say is that, like, a lot of these Warcry warbands just don't interact in ways like that.
Yeah.
They usually find ways to go, they have their own unique abilities that they operate in certain ways, but the core rules of how they operate remain the same. Whereas now it's like, we've got this whole new thing we're doing. And this is funny that you mentioned this is also Ossiarch Bone Reapers doing this, and I mentioned this in our conversation earlier before we started recording, but Ossiarch just have like this thing. I don't know what it is with Ossiarch Bone Reapers, but like they just got to break the rules. That's like what they do. In Age of Sigmar, like they don't use command points the same way anyone else does. They generate them differently. They can span their command abilities where other armies cannot. I want to know what's going to happen as we go into the next discussion with Fourth, but they always have this kind of, we play the game a little differently for everyone else. That's kind of how we operate. And it's very cool in Warcry. They can spend their wild dice on two different things, unlike literally every other faction. They can only spend them by upgrading their abilities to higher value abilities. That's just crazy. The fact that they could do that. And we don't know what those are going to translate to, like what those abilities are. Yeah. So I hope it's not like, again, I hope it's not as cut and dry as something as like, you get +1 attack on a double, but if you spend a wild dice, you get +2 strength as well. I'm hoping it's a little bit more comprehensive than that. Yeah. But even if it is just that, that's something very unique for the army to do.
Yeah, like a riding charge, like move an additional 3 inches and +1 inch for each wild dice you spend, or something like that.
Well, I definitely hope it's not per wild dice you spend, Connor, because that would be very bad competitively. I hope it's just like if you spend a wild dice, you get like +3 move. You know what I mean? That's what I'm hoping it's going to be. As in, like, you get a bonus move, and if you spend a wild dice, it's a bonus. Let's add 3 inches to that move or something. Yeah. You know what I mean? That's what I'm hoping.
Also, the piece of dangerous terrain in here. The
my God,
ravening gnarl oak.
It's so cool.
It's so cool.
This is spider kick models into that.
They are going to make rules for that.
Yeah, that's legitimately the rules that you're going to be able to feed them to the pit. Yeah. I do like any kind of terrain that makes the gnarl wood feel more like a creature than it does a wood. Yeah. I like when the focus is on the gnarl. It's cool. Like again, like it kind of harkens back to if you have like a full board of all this stuff.
Yeah.
It's gonna be very cool together. Like it's like a big living organism that you're fighting around.
Like it, like with all of the Gur-based terrain on like one big AOS-sized board, it's gonna be nuts, including like the new Morpit.
Yeah,
with
the Gorger
this.
Morpit. Oh, it's so cool.
Yeah.
And even like a feculent Gnarloke in the background, just for good measure.
Something
you know?
cool.
So
Yeah.
you've heard it here. Less wood, more gnarl.
Yeah.
That's it.
That's the name
That's
of the
it.
episode.
Less wood, more gnarl.
No.
Next reveal, we're going on to new Warhammer 40k models. Chaos Space Marines finally getting their
I imagine
update.
I imagine most people who were on the stream were waiting for the 40k reveals with bated breath. This is what most people are here for. They want to see the 40k reveals. Everyone plays 40k.
So brand new
What they
Chaos
show
Space Marines. We're getting an update to the Lord. The Lord
Chaos
model.
Lord.
Chaos
Looks
Lord's
good.
getting updated with, again, full weapon kit options, which I think was like one of the reasons why you bought a Chaos Terminator Lord back in the day was you built what you wanted and then you kept all the bits for your regular Lords.
Yeah, or even just like for kit bashing anything really.
Yeah.
That goes for the Lords as well. Even the Lords had lots of options too. So it's, however, as they disappeared from the new book and they didn't have the most recent book, the index didn't really have them. They were like, this is the Chaos Lord model, but no, it's good to have a model where you can put in like everything from Power Fist to Thunder Hammers to their own little like power weapons.
That was kind of the thing
Or
with
cursed
Chaos
weapons.
Marines as well, back in the earlier editions, was essentially that like you can spec these guys however you wanted.
Yeah.
Like I remember in like third ed, it was you can give demonic gifts. By the way, if you take like X amount of points of demonic gifts, they're not a lord anymore. They're a demon prince.
Yeah.
And must be modeled appropriately.
Yeah.
And then jump packs are back.
This is the big one.
Yes.
The Chaos Lord with jump pack. So the Chaos Lord could not be attached to units that had jump packs because he didn't have one himself. For lack of a better way of putting it. Basically, so it's good to be able to have something that can go into a squad of raptors and buff those raptors up as well, giving them a little bit more punch. So, because currently raptors tend to be little like kind of like backline abusers, but they really just perform actions and hold down objectives where they can. They strike in close. They put the Nurgle on them, so you can't shoot them with faraway models as you push into the center of the board, and then they just survive. And hopefully they'll just like again they'll just deploy teleport homers, that kind of stuff. So it's cool to have a Lord which can give them a bit more of like a punch, make them more aggressive, and make them actually do something on the board that feels more than just an action monkey.
And no tactical rock.
And no tactical
No,
rock.
it's tactical smoke instead.
Tactical smoke. Which is interesting. I also think, like, for me, I'm like, the Primaris head. Come on, Games Workshop. They're always fighting Primaris.
It would be quite surprising to me if they actually had a couple of different heads there.
That'd be cool.
To slot in there.
I'd like that.
Just a Tau, like Fire Warrior head. Or
That'd be cool.
a Gene
I
Stealer
would just like a big skull. If it was me, just put a skull there. Skulls with the skull
Big
throne.
Orc Skull.
Or just a skull.
So yeah, again, Chaos Lord, many weapons options as well. That's great. We're getting the new Codex.
No new art.
No new art.
No new art. Just
Like many of the codexes. And then 2 different battle forces. So getting the like on the grounds, like Terminators and Chosen, like battle force, and then you've got everything with jump packs.
The
Spawn.
The Dread Talons have the jump pack stuff. They have the cultists with the Veterans of the Long War actually also coming with Possessed, if I'm correct.
Yeah, Possessed. Sorry, not Chosen.
So they also got like Possessed, which is really, really cool. The Possessed sculpts are just gorgeous. Some of the better models in the current Space Marine range. So I think the kind of more staple kind of battle force will end up being Veterans of the Long War.
Yeah.
But if you want to kind of go specifically and tie into that kind of fast shock assault kind of design of army, Dread Talon seems really fun. I don't know how they go in the new codex. Currently, Accursed Cultists are the hotness of the Chaos Space Marine Index. Accursed Cultists are very good.
Has a Demon Prince as well.
A Demon Prince too,
Yeah.
so that's very good.
Again, Chaos Problem blends into the background.
Yeah. He does also, so the Chaos Demon Prince can be assembled with wings, so I'm sure they'll come in that in the kit as well. However, currently in the book, the on-foot Demon Prince, ironically, tends to do a lot better than the winged one.
Look, I feel like a pretty decent result is to just grab one of each and just go.
Yeah, in a perfect world, in the Australian economy, in a perfect world, you can buy both of these battle boxes. I feel that you do also kind of hit a wall if you buy both battle boxes, which is that you don't have things like Forge Fiends and you don't have things like Predators, and that's kind of really helpful stuff.
Or Disco Lords.
or even Disco Lords. Disco Lords haven't seen a lot of play in the current edition. I really, really hope they get a glow up in the Codex, because in the Index, unfortunately, the Disco Lord is just in 0 to nil zilch play. It just doesn't really have a space in the army, unfortunately. And being one of the best models aesthetically in the book is just so sad. However, again, these armies are really cool. The new Chaos Space Marine stuff's cool. Chaos Space Marines also I want to talk about very quickly. So in the Index, they probably have one of the most thematic and cool army rules. And because it is an army rule that they get to do this, what ends up happening is in the Codex, they keep their army rule they currently have the Index, and they get a bunch of detachment rules. So bringing into keeping all of their dark packs, such a cool ability to have. So I'm really excited to see in the Codex, and keep an eye on that on the Games Workshop, the Warhammer community website, as they start to announce more stuff. But I can't wait to see what unique ways these Chaos Space Marine detachments will interact with dark packs, because it's gonna be really cool. I hope that we get to see like the kind of Space Marine-esque detachments of, well, you have this esoteric name, but we really mean to say this is the Emperor's Children, and you have this other esoteric name, but really that's the Iron Warriors, and then they have these kind of buffs that go, well, it's obvious what kind of faction they are and what they want to do. So like, the Iron Warriors may have a lot of stuff with vehicles and havocs, whereas the Emperor's Children might be a lot of melee stuff, where it's like maybe everything has to have the mark of Slanesh, but if they do, they get some bonus movement or something along those lines.
Do you think they'll ever move to having Emperor's Children having their own
Codex?
like Codex and faction? I
actually think that that'll be something we'll see in 10th edition. You're hearing me say it now. I think in 10th edition we'll actually see that. I wouldn't be surprised if we don't see anything like it in the new Codex. I think it's guaranteed.
Yeah.
So check out for that. However, if it's in the new Codex, I wonder. But again, I think that's actually something we might even see this year.
Yeah, because I wouldn't be surprised if what we end up seeing is, like, we still see Noise Marines and stuff in this. But we'll see, rather than references to Emperor's Children, it'll just be marks. Because that's kind of what happened after, after World Eaters finally got revealed and all that. The references, before World Eaters in the last edition, it was essentially just marks. It wasn't necessarily, this is the World Eaters Legion or these are the Khorne guys. It was, your units have the Mark of Khorne, in the same vein of Death Guard, and then there's the Mark of Nurgle. And you weren't really taking Plague Marines in your base Space Marines.
Yeah.
Do you reckon they'll do elite options in here that are just the basic troop choices, like they did in eras past?
As in have troop options for Khorne Berserkers, you mean?
Yeah. Like an elite option of Berserkers, elite option of Plague Marines, an elite option of Noise Marines, and an elite option of Thousand Suns Marines.
I don't know. Marines. See, I actually don't think so. I think what they'll end up happening is, if they go in that direction, they might just have like coalition rules, where it's like you can bring these units and they come from these other books. I don't know if they'll overlap. They might do. They might do.
So it was in the vein of the Demon Prince not really existing in, I think, in the World Eaters at the start. It wasn't really there, but it was like, take it because it's part of that coalition.
Yeah, let's see how that goes. They put it, I think, in the indexes, so they might overlap them all. So we'll see. But yeah, I don't know. That's an interesting question. I think personally, I don't think they will. I think they'll go like, no, you have like Space Marines, Terminators, Chosen, Possessed.
Yeah,
that'll be kind of what you have.
They're moving away from the Chaos,
and they'll move away from the Chaos. They'll push into Chaos Undivided, and they'll move away from the Chaos like any of those marks specifically, in the sense of like you give Khorne, Nurgle, and whatever to just undivided units and make them into what you want them to be, like what divide you want to put them into. However, those specific units, again, Khorne Berserkers, Rubik Marines, Plague Marines, etc., just aren't in the book, and they're not. If you want Plague Marines, you play Chaos Space Marines with Mark of Nurgle.
Yes. Yeah, sorry, what I meant by Undivided is a sense of that Horus Heresy era of Undivided, where, like, in 4th edition, where it was that kind of element of you have pieces that make up the entirety of the Chaos Space Marines, because they're all meant to be like this mishmash of Horus Heresy lunatics. But now they're all getting their own identity. And then, it definitely seems that it'll be Chaos Undivided in the sense of we are all Black Legion.
Yes, because Undivided has like rules in the current index, right? Like Undivided is its own faction.
Yeah.
Whereas like when you use your dark packs, if you don't have a mark, you do get a benefit that's unique to that, because you're the Undivided. So you get like an Undivided dark pack, which gives you the real ones to hit in a wound, which is very useful too. So yeah, it'll be interesting.
Cool. I like it. It'll be interesting to see when it comes out.
I think that I think we're in a weird world where the 4 god factions have their own codexes. And then Chaos Space Marines are still its own faction.
I think we're in a weirder world where we have Chaos Marines with its own faction, and then 3 of the 4 Chaos Gods with their own.
Obviously, that's the weirder world for sure. But I mean, that's obviously just like a transition period. I think like that's obviously their goal is to at some point release Emperor's Children and the Slano stuff.
Or they just punch through a big green portal in space and we get space rats.
Well, that's the big one, right? Because we'll get to this as a later conversation, but I want to talk about the big rat in the room as well as we get into that conversation later, because that's really important to the new Sigmar stuff we're going to talk about too.
Final reveal that really had any substance as well is the new Kill Team box.
Oh,
The Brood Brothers battling Hernkin.
The Hernkin Jaeger.
Leagues of Votan versus Genestealer Cults. The Termination box set. It includes a squad of Hernkin, including a cool little automaton. And
Ironkin.
versus Genestealers.
Ironkin, yeah. Versus the Genestealer Brood Brothers.
Brood Brothers,
Brood
yeah.
Brothers.
So like Cadians, though,
Super
spent a
Brood
little bit
Bros.
too long in the gene pool.
Yeah.
In the deep end of the gene pool.
In the deep end of the gene pool.
I love how they are moving with Leagues of Votan. Like the idea that this isn't just an Abhuman Imperium like subfaction. This is like these are their own thing, and they're also like that element of like I guess out for their own. I mean, it's that typical dwarven thing of we have a hold, we lock the door, no one comes in.
Yeah.
But that idea of hey, that's a fleet with a lot of biomass that we can sell. So let's just go deal with that. And if the galaxy gets screwed up, well, okay, whatever.
I also like that aesthetically, the Jaeger moved very far away from the squats.
Yes.
The squats are dwarves in power armor, and the Votan had a lot of dwarves in power armor. So it's cool. The Jaeger had these kind of like these very trench coat designs, very like rugged, out in the fields kind of design, very minor aesthetic. I
Very
think they're
like
great.
Red Dead almost.
Very
with the
Red
duster
Dead.
coats.
Yeah, the
Duster
duster
coats.
coats.
And the
Pistols.
the 6-shooter bloody hammerlocks. It's very like dirty.
I like it. It's really I think it's primo future dwarf.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's a great way of utilizing the dwarves and the Votan.
It's got a crossbow.
Yeah,
Like
it's very cool. And I like this is another cool kill team of like, you know, you've got like your pistol gunslinger, your big shotgun guys, you got your sniper, your crossbow, your tracker kind of situation, your guerrilla expert, your tracker, like it's just lots of cool examples. Your demo guy.
Can we really appreciate too that their shotguns are 6-shooters as well?
Yeah.
They're probably slugs, honestly. Their shotguns probably like big slugs they shoot out of them, I can imagine.
I definitely want to get my hands on this kill team. I'm not gonna lie.
Okay, that's definitely an automaton, right? Like,
Yes, that is
no, he's kin.
he is kin.
okay,
Yeah.
That is true, he is kin. But yes, that is an AI.
that is so good.
Isn't that awesome? And they do that all the time.
Put him in a trench coat.
Yeah.
So looking at the guy as well, the demo guy with his big shovel, I think it is, right?
Yeah.
He's like plants the bomb to your right. Yeah, so he's got a big
Yeah.
shovel. You got the guy
And a
with like,
pick. It's a shovel pick.
yeah, it's a shovel pick. Again, I think, and there's this guy with his, that's like a very weird looking weapon he's got. That one there. It's a very strange looking.
It's like an extractor.
Yeah, what even is that thing? There it is there, Connor. Yeah. I don't even know what that thing is. But I want to talk about this. So we're looking at this Votan, we're very excited. This is very cool. The Hernkin, they're uniquely designed. Obviously, there's the Hernkin Pioneers from the Leagues of Votan army, the bikers, and these guys are foot versions of them. But it's very new. It feels full of character. It feels like a unique and interesting kill team for the game of Kill Team. Let's talk about the Battle Brothers, the Brood Brothers, I should say, sorry. So these are the Genestealers, right?
Mm-hmm.
So as we kind of flick through these guys, you can see they got the same kind of vibe. You've got the Melter guy, you've got this guy with the baton, the comms specialist, the medic, you've got the sniper. You've got the kind of designs of a kill team. You know what I mean? I can see this working as a kill team. I can see as each guy having his own special rules here and there with a couple of just generic dudes. That's how kill teams generally get designed, right? But I want to talk about this in the same vein as I talk about mandrakes. And I want to talk about this in the same vein that I talk about the striking scorpions.
Yeah.
In the sense that there's this theme that happens, right? There's this theme that happens with the current kill team where a box comes out with 2 factions in it. One of the factions is very much designed for kill team. It's unique to kill team. It's a kill team. It feels like it's part of that game. And then the other faction that drops the box feels like something that 40k players have been wanting for a long time. It feels like it's not selling to kill team players. It feels like an army like Genestealer Cults has had access to Brood Brothers rules since the dawn of their existence, right? It's all about the idea that there are humans, not Genestealers, but humans who through propaganda, through gas and mind control elements, just through like being born and raised in this environment, this city, have fallen for this gene stealer ruse and have fallen and become this kind of like militia for a group of people who are defending themselves until a hive fleet comes and demolishes them all. This is, and consumes them all for biomass. This is a very interesting design, but it's something that has never had sculpts. What Games Workshop has always said, well, just get yourself some Cadians, throw those in your faction, and they're going to be your brood brothers. This is true for Cadian troops. This is true for Lehman Russ. Yeah. This is true for like a lot of different units.
You get extra heads. Just use those from the other brood guys.
Like from your combat patrol, whatever you're going to purchase, whatever extra heads you have, use those. But again, you've got, let's go back to that kill team for a second here. You've got two of those guys right there are fully helmeted.
Yeah.
They look like guys. With the covering their Klingon style of forehead, they just look like guys. There's a tiny bit of development design where you can kind of tell they're
in the eye,
off-looking.
in the cheeks of these tiny models.
Tiny models. But generally, they just look like dudes. So you don't really need to change the head swaps very much. At most, you could do a couple of models, maybe just the sergeants, but you don't feel that you need to. So I don't necessarily think it's a bad thing. I don't want to say, oh, that's lazy. It's obviously like they want to sell to a large of a thing as possible. And in a world where we just didn't get Brood Brothers, that wouldn't be better. I'm glad that we got really cool Brood Brothers sculpts. But again, I feel like maybe Kill Team is becoming a bit more of a siphon for 40K and other games like it.
Yeah, the really frustrating part I can see out of this is that a lot of these guys make really great, unique Cadian units when you put the Cadian heads on them.
Yeah, the irony of that, right? The irony of that.
The irony.
So
like you gotta modify a couple of things, change an arm. Like, is there really a Cadian medic floating out there?
There isn't the command squad, but outside that, yeah, no.
Like,
that's a great medic for a command squad. Even just medic, a great medic in general. Like, yeah, I also agree with that too. And like I said, I don't want to like rain on people's parade and be like, oh, Brood Brothers and Kill Team, that's lame. G Steelers suck. But look, this is another point as well. They're also talking about the Brood Coven, and Connor's got it up on the screen there, where it's like you can play these guys in Kill Team as well. So they're going to get their rules. They're going to come to Kill Team. You're going to mix and match those into the Brood Brothers, which is really cool. But doesn't it kind of almost project even further this point I'm making of like, well, look at these models that already exist that weren't in Kill Team before, get these. And it's like, now you've got stuff that's even further towards 40K for your Kill Team. Why not get more stuff for 40K? You know, it feels like a bit of a siphon. And again, as you talk about Kill Team all the time, Kill Team is a great gateway drug to play 40K. Mm-hmm. It's a great way to get into the game. It's a great way to start with a few models. But Kill Team is a very comprehensive and interesting game. And it's like, for a rule set, I think that you don't need to go to 40K. I think you could just play Kill Team and it's really fun and engaging. It's competitive. It's interesting. It is its own game. And for every box that comes out that egregiously releases stuff that feels like it's for 40K, I feel like the less, unique the game feels and the more diluted it feels compared to what it could be.
I mean, like the Scout Squad as well. Sorry, just to cut in. That also feels like what you're talking about. Like,
yeah, the Scout Squad is the perfect example.
It's Primera scale Scout Squad.
Not to mention they got rid of the Scouts in 40K from the old sculpts to be like, well, you can't play unless you've got the Primera Scouts, and now you've got Primera Scouts. So I feel like, and that's also from this newer region of stuff.
Yeah.
So,
it's that R&D. It feels like that R&D argument from a couple of sets ago, where the army boxes, a couple of episodes ago, where I was talking about how the army boxes to me just seemed like payments for R&D for new sculpts, and like maybe this is again that kind of element of these are new Brood Brothers models that they're basically looking to package up in the future as a Brood Brothers squad.
Well, that's it.
And they're just, rather than doing a new army box with these models, they're just doing a Kill Team box and
do it in the side range to see how it sells, and then if it does well enough, we can incorporate it into our main.
Do it in the side range to pay for that R&D design and model, and then template mold building, and then all these end up releasing as individual box sets later.
But then look, I want to talk about that as well, right? So you talk about they release their own individual box sets later. They do. We've seen that plenty of times. Look at that. Right now, there are 2 boxes that were on our shelf for a while of the Striking Scorpions, right?
Mm-hmm.
But 10 Striking Scorpions models for 115 Australian dollars, because you can justify buying it for rules and cards and the design space that went into putting them into Kill Team. You're paying for people's time and their hard work to get these guys comprehensive and balanced rules and interesting rules for Kill Team. That didn't take no time at all, and that wasn't a cost nothing. That cost the company money. So they can justify making these boxes quite expensive for a bunch of crap you don't need if you're not buying them for Kill Team. And if I want to buy Brood Brothers, I need to buy 3 boxes of them, for example, right? To play them in 40K. They're probably $100 plus a box. If they're $100 plus a box, I'm going to end up with 2 extra sets of Kill Team stuff that I don't need, and 1 set that I probably won't even freaking use because I don't want to play them in Kill Team.
Yeah.
Is this a cool kill team? Yes. Does it seem blatant to me what is going on here? Also, yes. So
No, it's okay. In the next edition of War 40k, they'll rebox them as 40k models.
you know what? That might also be true as well. That also be something happens.
Because they'll be added to the combat patrol.
Yeah, sure. You know what I mean? Exactly. So
that's pretty much it from the Warhammer Adepticons. But I have another special treat for you.
okay.
Let me just send this off to. Connor on the
So
computer.
we've talked about, just to jump in, so we've talked about a Warhammer reveals, right? But Adepticon is not a Warhammer event.
It's
It
a
is
miniatures event.
miniatures gaming event. So we're going to talk about something that isn't from Warhammer. Last time we did Adepticon, we only talked about Warhammer. This time we've got something else that isn't just
It's a
from
little,
Warhammer.
little something that came across at the Adepticon reveals. I just sent it to you in the Discord. Cool. And I think you're going to love it.
Okay. I'm not seeing this, by the way, chat. We're not doing a bit. I have no idea what he's talking about. If I were to harbor a guess, it's terrain. If
It
I
is
were to harbor
terrain.
a guess.
Maybe because you just saw my little tab there that says new terrain.
I can't see your screen. It's actually
Oh.
glared from the light here.
I love.
I mean, I can see some of your screen, but not most of it. I can't read your tabs, by the way.
Awesome.
So
Privacy.
it's a good guess that it was terrain because I'm a terrain guy. I love terrain.
Train's awesome.
If I have to make a guess, it's got something to do with Halo Flashpoint. If I was making a guess.
No, but Halo Flashpoint was revealed
Yeah, there
there,
was
by
some
the way. There
reveals.
was a reveal. It basically is Drop Zone Commander.
I've seen the gameplay now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, it goes up for pre-order very soon.
Yeah.
Very soon. So I'll be getting it.
Yeah, Admantic.
Yeah, I was talking with a friend about this who's really into Halo Infinite, and I was like, bro, you got to try this game. He's like, oh yeah, so what does it come out on? I'm like, the
PC.
internet. And he goes, no, like what's it come out on? I'm like, well, it goes up for pre-order on the Mantic website. He's like, wait, on the Mantic website? It's like, how do I get on PC? And I was like, oh son,
Steam. All right,
on Steam.
here it is. Gale Force 9 is doing terrain that looks like it's straight out of Warhammer 40k Dawn of
Bro,
War.
what?
Let's go, dude.
Shout out to Zorpazorp. dude.
Shout out to Zorpazorp, dude. By the way, if you're not subscribed to Zorpazorp, please subscribe to Zorpazorp. Everyone at home.
So it comes with a partnership with their
Great
German
content.
3D sculpting studio War Scenery. Prototypes were shown. It is called Gothic Sector Terrain.
Okay.
And it is
Methinks I've heard this before.
essentially Dawn of War, like,
Oh,
There's Tau here.
Yeah, I was gonna say
Oh.
I really like this
Earthcase
Tau
Tau.
looking terrain. Oh,
look
this
at,
looks so cool.
look at that. Look at that turret right
Oh
there. It's
my
a
god,
listening
the
post,
listening
bro.
post. Oh my god, dude.
They're the United Frontier.
That's crazy.
Legally
cool.
distinct.
Legally distinct United Frontier. That is so cool.
Oh, look. In the article, there is a link to Zorpazorp's Dawn of War video.
Yeah, thank God. That's so cool.
Oh, because I've been watching the videos that he's got up on his channel, and I'm like, messaging Trent. I'm like, oh god, I want to play this. God, I want to play it so bad.
We also don't play it,
these
dude.
kits will come. They're Battlefield or box range too, so they come pre-painted, ready to use.
Ooh.
I think I'm gonna have a look at what's going up on Etherworks because I love Battlefield in a box. By the way, I absolutely
They're
love
great.
terrain stuff. Some of the best terrain I've ever bought. But yeah, Mundus Imperialis Hub, the municipal depot. This is
That
all
looks
Dawn
so
of War
cool.
shit. It's great.
This is so cool. They got Hex Tech stuff for Battletech.
Yeah, they do
That's so
Battletech
cool.
Hex Tech stuff as well. But yeah, I think that is awesome.
The fact that honestly, the fact
There's
it's
a-
all pre-painted
that's
is really
that's
cool
the
too.
chapter stronghold.
Oh yeah, I wonder
I
where that
wonder
comes
where that's
from.
from.
That's so cool. The chapter stronghold, not the
At the top, it's in the like title image. There, right there.
God, I love it. God, I love it. And it's already pre-painted,
incredible.
but I'm gonna repaint it. Like,
Yeah,
I need my
Everything's
Blood
Blood
Angels
Ravens.
theme.
Everything's
yeah,
Blood
that's
Ravens.
valid.
yeah.
Ravens.
So
That's
yeah,
so cool.
actually, I'll
I
do
am
a quick.
Gabriel Angelos of the,
The
Blood,
Blood
Ravens.
I love of the blood Ravens.
Um,
the Blood Clot.
The blood clot.
sure,
That's a word.
Warhammer.
No, it isn't.
It's really just everyone just talks about the Warhammer updates at Adepticon.
That's-
It's really frustrating.
I know.
Let's see. I'll just see if I can quickly get something about Halo for you.
Yeah, because I was gonna say the Halo stuff does look pretty Shrek as well. The stuff that I've seen, couple little articles here and there.
Well, I saw they also showed off the Master Chief miniature,
Mm.
and they mentioned
And
they're going to be
that's
getting rules.
So they got. Oh, this has got a gallery of images shown at Adepticon for Halo Flashpoint. So we have our Reachy boys, some Spartans there for you.
Well, a bit more Halo Infinite than Reach, but yes, very cool.
with a prototype box. Oh,
That's a funny image.
what have you done? Why have you resized it so poorly? Oh, there's elites there.
I've seen the elites. They've shown us some elite sculpts. They look really, really nice. Playable elite sculpts. Some, yeah, those.
These are the two. These were the two images they used as promo.
Yep. They're showing this off. They show off some of the Spartans have like needlers in this new box set and stuff like that. The terrain is all flat pack and it all pops out and you build it yourself in the box.
Definitely has that card.
They have EVA helmets.
Yeah, one of the guys is EVA. The big thing about it as well that I like a lot about this system, by the way, is that you don't measure your movement with like a measuring tape. So there's like a grid on the board, right?
Yeah.
Akin to something like Dead Zone, right? There's a grid on the board and then you move a number of tiles on the grid, right? But here's the thing. Where you start and where you land on the square is like matters from like drawing line of sight and stuff. But it's wherever you want to be on that square.
That's cool.
So you
That's
move like
nice.
2 squares, but you can just go any amount on that square you land on, so wherever you want to be.
That does kind of cut a lot of faff out of like measuring and all that sort of stuff.
I think that's really smart. It's something very modern and interesting.
You would save a lot of minutes over the course of a game not having to like X, Y, and Z.
Exactly. So it looks really cool. I'm really excited. They'll be pre-ordering the big, I think it's called the Spartan edition, which is the big one. That's like the nice, comes with a big map, comes with extra. Because I think one of them comes with 2 squads of 4. The big Spartan edition comes with the 8 and another set of 8. And then the Spartan edition also comes with like 4 elites. It's like a whole bunch of stuff. Just incredible.
Yeah.
Really cool stuff. Yes, the Spartan edition comes with a ton of models, a whole board.
Oof.
And if you pre-order the Spartan edition, you get a Master Chief model as well. It's very, very exciting.
Oh, it's double-sided.
Yeah,
That's cool.
Yeah, the box and the train are both double-sided. It's very cool. The elites look great. The Spartans look great. You'll see the Master Chief as well as you scroll through. He's coming up soon. 2 more. There he is.
Oh, energy sword, everything.
Energy sword and everything.
Yeah.
He's looking absolutely gorgeous. The sculpts are great. I want to talk about something, right? So there's a channel I watch. I mentioned a few times called Eons of Battle, right? And it's like a little funny little channel. He just like he has a thing called like Models and Memories Weekly, and he just talks about like his wargame experiences of the week. This guy uploads like 3 times a week and streams and stuff. He's does nothing else. But he talked about this, which really interested me, right? And the Master Chief model looks great, right? It does look really good.
If you want to see the Master Chief model, I sent you a link to the Halo Flashpoint website directly.
So we can bring that one up too. The Master Chief model looks great. All of the stuff looks really good. The big thing, though, I want to talk about with this is that it's interesting they went with the Halo 4 Master Chief. And the Halo, or more accurately, the Halo Infinite Master Chief, like the more modern Master Chief. These really comprehensive-looking Spartans.
Yeah, so you just go down to like pre-order now or click that Spartan Edition image there, you'll take to it.
And there's like a gallery you can flick through as well, where you'll see along there. Beautiful, there you go. So you'll see the Master Chief as you flick through these images here. And the elites look absolutely brilliant. Now, these models do look good. There's no question about it. They look great. They're high quality models. They look awesome. Mantic does a great job, and the artists as well have done a great job rendering them in plastic and painting them to it. Like those elites right there are just beautiful. And the next one over, the Master Chief looks so good. However, I want to say, why couldn't we use Combat Evolved sculpts? Now, Combat Evolved is an old game, 2001. It's an old game, right? But what if Master Chief was just like that classic Master Chief, right? It like the mold is very comprehensive and it's very nice, but God, could you imagine if we had like Halo 1 or even Halo 2 Master Chief and all the elites were like the classic looking elites and it was all very classic looking. And then, later down the line, we got like the more updates. So you got like the Reach Halos, like the Noble Six and like that kind of stuff, To me, it's like, why couldn't we have had that? Why do we have to use? And he made this point. I'm kind of taking it from him, where he's like, it looks good, but they're very all out, like they're very high detailed, kind of busy. They're very busy models. Even like the Master Chief we see up here on the screen, it's a very busy model. I don't know, they're really cool though. I'm like, that's like the tiniest nitpick. That's like me pulling hairs for no reason. These models look great. The game looks fun. I love Halo.
That guy on the left looks like what's his name from Dead Space.
Oh, yeah. It kind of looks like Dead Space Pro Tag, yeah. Got a very Dead Space Pro Tag vibe.
Oh, yeah. Isaac.
Yeah, they're great models. It looks like a great game. I'm excited to play it. I love Halo. Anything Halo.
Yeah.
I've always wanted a Halo miniatures game, like a Halo skirmish game.
Yeah.
I know it was this a while ago, but I was saying, like, back in the Battle Royale craze, I was surprised we didn't get a Halo Battle Royale. That seems like the perfect space for Halo. Like
Oh, yeah.
on a
Oh,
Halo
yeah.
ring.
Or a Forge game mode.
Well, that's what I'm saying, right? Like imagine if you're like on a Halo ring, but the storm is just on either end of the ring and it's like going down. And it's like all different like biomes as you move around the ring.
Yeah.
And you start on board a ship where you can just like fight a little bit on the ship and get you like some starting stuff, and you shoot down a pod onto the ring, and that's like how the game kind of progresses. Like that to me would be like so perfect.
You know what? I know I've been playing a lot of it with Helldivers 2, but Helldivers 2 as a Halo version of Helldivers 2 would also work
Oh, that is
extremely well.
Like a Halo ODST vibe.
Not even ODST, like you're all Spartans.
that is literally like the biggest thing in the community at the moment is like, man, Microsoft really fumbled the bag by not like taking this concept on board, because I think the developers had originally shopped it around at Microsoft and be like, we've got this idea for this kind of game, like, did you want to like take it on board? And like, no, we've got no time for that. Like Helldivers 1 was just some indie game, and now it's like the biggest thing because it literally is just ODST, which is great. Like dropping into hell, it tickles like Starship Troopers, it tickles like 40k in a way, and it tickles that Halo.
It's very Stormtrooper, like very Cassican.
Yeah, it's just like drop right into the middle of hell, and just fucking carnage ensues. And that as like a game for Spartans or ODST literally be great, because ODST's like the nickname is the Hell Jumpers.
So we're going to talk about 4th edition in the next episode.
Absolutely.
So stay tuned for that.
Yeah, like the video, subscribe to the channel,
Ring that bell.
get the bell on to get notified every time a new video goes live here
Like us
on
on Spotify.
From the Vault. Yes, like and subscribe to us on Spotify as well.
Please.
Because the next
Please.
episode, we're going to talk about the 4th edition of AOS. That's right, we're doing a double record today. We're going to be wearing the same clothes and looking a little bit tighter, but we're going to tell you all about 4th edition and our thoughts on editions in general, really.
Mostly, I think most of the episode will be about editions in general. We want to talk about why editions exist and how useful are they to games in 2024.
Yes. So until that episode comes out and you're able to watch it, let us know in the comments what reveal at Adepticon did you are you excited about? It doesn't have to just be Warhammer. It could be something we didn't even mention in this. A lot happens at Adepticon every year. Let us know in the comments what got you jazzed.
What's more importantly, what did we miss?
Yeah,
we
what
talked about a lot
miss?
of Warhammer. We talked about a couple other things, but we would like to know what else we missed. Maybe in the future we'll make another episode about it. Talk about some of the other Adepticon stuff that we didn't talk about this time. Tell us what your favorite stuff was, and wash your goddamn hands.
We'll catch you next time. Bye.
Goodbye, everyone. Goodbye.